She gossiped so much that her mouth began to stretch wide. What if every word you spoke would come back to haunt you? In the small village of Ijogun, there lived a young girl named Tawa. She loved to gossip. Every morning, she would sit under the big mango tree in the middle of the village. Her sharp eyes would watch everything, and her mouth would spread every story she had. Tawa, do you ever get tired of talking? An old woman asked one day. Tawa laughed loudly. Why should I? In this village, I must know everything. She gossiped about the chief's wife, the traders, and even the young girls looking for husbands. She even broke relationships and homes with her gossip. Her father, Baba Tawa, was a kind farmer. He would often warn her, Tawa, my daughter, words are like seeds. If you plant bad ones, you will get bad fruit, he would say. But Tawa would laugh and say, it is just words, Baba. Nothing bad will happen. Baba Tawa would shake his head. Baba Abeji, the herbalist, always watched her quietly from his stall. He never said much, but he would shake his head whenever she gossiped. That evening, Tawa saw a little girl named Apeke sitting alone by the riverside, looking very sad. Tawa almost asked her what was wrong, but she decided not to bother. One day, Tawa saw Apeke selling small yams at the market. She leaned in and whispered to the woman under the mango tree. Did you know Apeke's mother was a thief? The woman gasped. A thief? One of them asked. Yes, Tawa said with a grin. She used to steal from the village stores before she died. That's why people don't like Apeke. People pointed and shook their heads when Apeke walked by. Apeke heard the whispers. She dropped her yam and ran to the riverside, crying loudly. Her cries echoed through the village. Tawa heard someone say that Apeke cried bitterly after she heard the gossip, but Tawa just laughed and said, she is too sensitive, Jare. Tawa did not stop. She continued to gossip, feeling powerful. This time, she spread lies about her stepmother, Mama Shewa, and her daughters, Shewa and Fumi, saying that they put spoiled meat in their soup at the market. The woman gasped and refused to buy from Mama Shewa. Her stall was empty, and people whispered behind her back. Mama Shewa, with tears in her eyes, went to Tawa. Why are you doing this? My daughters and I work hard. Why spread such lies? Tawa crossed her arm and said, I only tell what I hear. Mama Shewa looked at her for a long time, her eyes filled with sadness and something deeper than disappointment. Then she left. That night, Tawa heard whispers outside her window. They were faint but clear, repeating her own words back to her. Mama Shewa's meat is spoiled. Apeke's mother was a thief. The next morning, Tawa woke up feeling strange. Her lips were slightly swollen, but she brushed it off and continued gossiping. She told the women under the mango tree that Babajide was secretly seeing another woman. She whispered that the chief's ex-wife had stolen gold from the palace and ran away. But with every lie, her lips felt heavier. People began to notice. Is Tawa sick? They asked. Her lips are getting bigger. But Tawa just laughed and continued to spread lies. When Tawa saw people staring at her, one woman was shocked and asked Tawa what happened to her lips. She touched her lips. They felt big and heavy. Her heart beat fast, but she pretended not to care. She laughed and walked away, but the whispers did not stop. Is she sick? Look at her mouth. Tawa felt scared. She covered her mouth with a scarf and hurried home. She did not want anyone to see. In her room, she locked the door. She took off the scarf and looked in the mirror. Her eyes grew wide. She screamed and cried. Her lips were much bigger. She touched them and they felt heavy and strange. What is happening to me? She whispered, fear in her eyes. Baba Tawa came inside and looked at her and said, Tawa, what happened to your mouth? Tawa cried and said, I don't know, Papa, and he hugged her tight while they both cried together. Baba Beji watched her from his stall and murmured, words are seed. You are about to reap what you sow. He was seen sprinkling herb around the stall, whispering ancient words. His eyes were dark and full of warning. That night, the whispers returned, louder this time. She heard them echoing her lies. Shadows danced outside her window, whispering her own words back to her. The next morning, people in the village began to whisper that Mama Shewa was behind Tawa's swollen lips. She cursed her for the lies, they said. Mama Shewa's business got worse. People stopped buying her food, thinking she was a witch. Baba Tawa stood by his wife and said, my wife is not a witch. If she cursed Tawa, let the gods judge her. Tawa still did not believe she was cursed. She continued to gossip, ignoring the whispers around her. The chief called for Tawa. Her lips were now bigger and people stared as she walked to the palace. The chief asked Tawa why her mouth was swollen. Tawa lied and said she ate something bad. Her lips grew wider right there in front of everyone. The crowd gasped. Some were laughing and pointing fingers on her. Finding out who did this to you or you will be exiled, the chief said firmly. Baba Beji stood at the back of the crowd, whispering to himself. His eyes were sharp and knowing. That night, the whispers grew louder, louder than ever before, shaking her windows and calling her name. Tawa could not take it anymore. Her mouth was growing bigger each day, and the whispers at night were getting louder. She could not sleep. She could not eat. She was very scared and she cried a lot. One evening, her father sat her down. My daughter, he said gently, we must find help. This is not normal. Tawa nodded slowly. She was tired of covering her mouth with scarves. She was tired of the whispers. Where will we go? She asked. Baba Tawa's eyes were serious. There is a powerful seer in the next village. They say she can see things nobody else can. Early the next morning, they set out. The journey was long. They walked through dusty roads, crossed small rivers, and climbed over hills. Tawa covered her face with a big scarf, hiding her mouth from the people they passed. After many hours, they reached a small hut covered in green leaves. Smoke curled from the chimney, and strange herb hung from the windows. An old woman sat outside, her eyes sharp and knowing. I have been expecting you, she said before they even spoke. Her voice was deep and smooth, like the wind whispering through the trees. Baba Tawa bowed his head. Great seer, please help my daughter. The seer did not move. She only smiled, her eyes never leaving Tawa. Take off the scarf, she said gently. Tawa hesitated. Her hands shook, but slowly she pulled the scarf away. Her big, wide mouth was revealed. The seer's eyes sparkled with interest. The seer said, stepping closer. She walked around Tawa slowly, touching her chin, examining her lips. This is not ordinary, she whispered. Baba Tawa's voice shook. Please, great seer, what happened to my daughter? The seer stepped back and looked deep into Tawa's eyes. Your mouth grows, not because of a sickness, but because of your words. Tawa's heart pounded. My words? The seer nodded. Words are powerful. When you speak evil, it grows. When you spread lies, it multiplies. But there is something else. Tawa and her father looked at each other in confusion. What do you mean? Baba Tawa asked. The seer smiled mysteriously. Your words touched a heart full of pain. Tawa's eyes grew wide. Who did I hurt? The seer laughed softly, but it was not a happy laugh. It was deep and sad. That, she said, you must find out on your own. But I will tell you this. She leaned in close to Tawa, her eyes shining like stars. When words are mixed with pain and sorrow, the spirit word listens, she answered. Tawa felt her heart drop. The spirit? She whispered. The seer nodded slowly. Baba Tawa grabbed the seer's hand. Please tell us who. We need to break the curse. But the seer only smiled and stepped back. No, you must find the answer yourself. When you do, true repentance will set you free. Tawa's eyes filled with tears. How do I find them? Who did I hurt? The seer's voice was soft as she disappeared into the shadows of her heart. Look into your heart. The truth is always there. Tawa could not sleep that night. The whispers were louder than ever before. They called her name over and over again. She covered her ears, but they did not stop. They whispered things she had said, things she thought were forgotten. Her father, Baba Tawa, came to her room. His eyes were tired, and his face was sad. Tawa, he said gently, we don't have much time. The chief will demand answers the day after tomorrow. We need to fix this. The seer said you hurt someone deeply. We must find them and beg each and every one of them. Tawa nodded. She was tired of hiding. She wanted the whispers to stop. She wanted her mouth to be normal again. The next morning, she went to the village square. Her face was covered with a large scarf, but people still whispered when she passed. She ignored them and went straight to Mama Shewa's stall. Mama Shewa, Tawa said, her voice shaking. I'm sorry for what I said about you and your daughters. I lied and I hurt your business. Mama Shewa looked at her with sad eyes. You did more than hurt my business, Tawa. You hurt my name. You hurt my children. Tawa's eyes filled with tears. I am truly sorry. Please forgive me. Mama Shewa looked into her eyes for a long time. Finally, she nodded. I forgive you, she whispered. Tawa touched her mouth, waiting for something to change, but nothing happened. Her lips were still large, still heavy. She felt her heart sink. Next, she went to Baba Beji, the herbalist. He was sitting quietly outside his stall, grinding herbs. When he saw her coming, he did not smile. Baba Beji, she said softly, I am sorry for what I said about your herbs. I lied. Your medicine is good. I just wanted people to listen to me. Baba Beji looked up at her with tired eyes. You took my customers away with your words, Tawa. Words are powerful. Tawa swallowed hard. Please forgive me. Baba Beji studied her for a long time, then finally nodded. I forgive you. Tawa touched her mouth again, but still, nothing happened. Her lips were just as big. Her heart ached. She broke down and cried. It is evening, and tomorrow is the day the chief will ask her questions, and she's here to beg all the people she has wronged. Baba Beji looked at her with pity and said, I will try to help you find a solution to your problem before the chief calls for the meeting tomorrow. Tawa's face lit up with hope immediately. She had wronged many people, and tomorrow the chief would ask her if she had found a way to fix what had happened. That night, Baba Beji whispered strange words over his herbs. Suddenly, the wind changed, and the spirit led them deep into the darkness, towards something no one was expecting. The next morning, the day finally arrived. The villagers gathered in the square. The chief called for a meeting. This must stop, he shouted. Who caused Tawa? Who did this? The villagers whispered among themselves. Some blamed Mama Shewa, others blamed Baba Beji. Nobody knew the truth. Tawa stood in the middle, her face covered, her heart heavy. Her father stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. We will find the truth, he whispered. Suddenly, there was a small cough from the back of the crowd. Everyone turned around. Baba Beji, the old herbalist, stepped forward slowly. He held a small wrapper in his hand. It was brown and a little bit dirty. The villagers began to whisper, What is that? Why does Baba Beji have that cloth? Baba Beji did not say anything. He walked straight to the chief and handed him the wrapper. The chief looked at it carefully. His eyes grew wide. Whose wrapper is this? He asked. Baba Beji raised his old hand and pointed. He pointed straight at Apeke, the little girl with sad eyes, standing quietly at the back of the crowd. Apeke's eyes grew wide. She looked scared. She did not want to move. But Baba Beji called her forward. Come, my child, he said gently. Come and tell the truth. Apeke walked slowly to the front. She was shaking. Her eyes were full of tears. Chief held up the wrapper. Is this yours? He asked. Apeke nodded slowly. Yes, it is mine, she whispered. The villagers gasped. But how did Baba Beji get it? They asked. What does it mean? Baba Beji stepped forward. His voice was deep and clear. I found this by the river, he said. It was tied to the tree where Apeke used to cry, and her tears awakened the spirit of her dead mother. The villagers whispered even louder. She used to cry, dear. Why would she cry? Apeke's eyes were full of tears now. She looked at Tawa and spoke softly. Tawa's heart began to pound. Apeke stood before the whole village and spoke. Tawa said my mother was a thief, she began. She told everyone my mother stole from the market. But my mother did not steal. She collapsed in the market from hunger. She hadn't eaten in 2 days because she gave me the last food we had, and I was not aware. The crowd gasped. Tawa stepped back, eyes wide. I was just talking, she stammered. Apeke shook her head. You did more than talk. You ruined my mother's name. People started avoiding me. People called her a thief. Tawa felt tears gather in her eyes. She looked at Apeke. Her eyes were strong and steady. Apeke continued. When I heard what you said, I cried by the riverside. I cried so much, and I whispered something. I said, if she lies about my mother, may her mouth never stop growing. The crowd gasped again. Baba Beji nodded slowly, his eyes wise and knowing. A mother's spirit hears the cry of a child, he murmured. Tawa fell to her knees, shaking. No, it was just words. I didn't know. Apeke stepped closer. My mother's spirit heard me, she answered. Tawa knelt before Apeke. Her heart felt heavy with sorrow. "I am sorry," she whispered. Her voice shook. "I did not know. I did not understand." Apeke watched her quietly. Her eyes were wet with tears. "You did not think before you spoke," she said softly. "You did not know the pain you caused." Tawa sobbed. "I am very sorry. Please forgive me. I just wanted people to listen to me. I did not mean to hurt you." Apeke closed her eyes for a moment. The wind blew gently, rustling the leaves of the big mango tree. Finally, she nodded. "I forgive you," she whispered. A breeze swept through the village, warm and soft. It blew around Tawa. She touched her mouth and felt it shrinking. Little by little, her eyes widened. "It's going back," she cried. The villagers watched in silence and shock as Tawa's mouth returned to normal. The whisper stopped. The wind grew calm. As the wind settled, a faint voice whispered in the distance, "Words carry spirit." Tawa jumped up and hugged her dad. They were very happy. The village was quiet the next morning. Tawa walked through the market, her mouth back to normal. People watched her but did not whisper. They simply nodded, and some even smiled. Tawa walked to Mama Shewa's store. "I am sorry," she said with a gentle voice. "I will help you sell today." Mama Shewa and her two daughters smiled and hugged her. "Welcome back, my daughter." She walked to Baba Beji. "I am very sorry for everything," she said. He nodded and handed her a small bag of herbs. "This is for good health," he said. Tawa looked for Apeke, but she was nowhere to be found. She asked around, but nobody had seen her. Finally, she walked back to the mango tree and sat alone. She listened to the wind and whispered to herself, "I have learned that not every story is mine to tell." The wind blew softly, and for the first time, it whispered back with peace. Lesson learned from the story: be careful with the words you speak, because gossip can wound deeper than a knife. And sometimes, the spirit word listens. Not every story is yours to tell. If this story touched your heart, taught you something new, or made you think twice about the power of your words, then don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe for more African tales that carry deep meaning and unforgettable lessons.